All right, we're right at 4:30. I'm gonna admit folks, and I'll just run through slides in 1 or 2 minutes. That sounds good. All right. Afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We will get started in just about 1 or 2 minutes. We'll let people trickle in. Yep. All right. Thank you, everyone. Welcome. We're all here for Hemp Beginnings, a green building speaker series. Doing things a little different than our typical run of show. Just being here for an evening event. So again, thank you all for making the time. And B, we will have several speakers on the call today. So we'll have a few different screen shares and some audio. So please bear with us. With that said, I'm just going to run through some housekeeping slides and hand things off to Amanda Martin to get us started. I'm sure by now we're all pretty comfortable on Zoom. I do ask that everyone remain on mute throughout the duration of the training. Time of permitting, we might open it up for kind of an open discourse at the end of the session. Otherwise, I really would encourage folks to participate either through comments, questions, through the chat box. I will relay those to the speakers as they come up, just to keep a standard flow of things. And then we will have a larger Q&A at the end. And then just a fair warning, this session is recorded for our on-demand page. So if you'd like to remain anonymous in any way, just keep your camera off or however you see fit. Click throughs. A few words about 3C Ren and who we are. We are the Tri-County Regional Energy Network. We're a collaborative partnership between the counties of SLO, Santa Barbara, and Ventura counties, meant to improve energy efficiency in the region. We offer free programs and services primarily for building professionals and households. We're funded by ratepayer dollars that we all pay into in our utility bills. The benefit of being ratepayer funded is that there's typically no cost to those that we serve. And as being ratepayer funded, we're able to return these dollars back to our local economy, which has historically missed out on some of these funds. We currently offer 3 programs. We have our Energy Code Connect program, where we offer industry training, regional forums, and a Title 24 consultation service called the Energy Code Coach. So if any Title 24 related questions come up in the field, you're able to either make a phone call on this hotline or submit an inquiry form on our website and receive a response within 24 hours from our local team here up in SLO. Our building performance training program, that is the reason we're all here tonight. We offer industry training and certification for energy efficiency and building science. Our main goal here really is to bring industry leading certification and training providers to the Central Coast. And then our home energy savings program is where we offer incentives and rebates for both multifamily and single family properties. A few resources here. We do have AIA and ICC learning units available for this evening. If you may have forgotten to input your AIA or ICC number in registering, please reach out to me. My email is listed here. Otherwise, I will be reporting attendance for these learning units following the call, likely at some point tomorrow. Additionally, slides, a survey, and the recording here will be shared with you. Again, that will be in your inbox either tomorrow or Thursday. And then just a couple upcoming courses throughout the next couple of weeks. And just highlighting, this is a 3-part series. So we have the second part where we'll focus on actually building with hemp on April 23rd. And then the third part of the series later on in May. With that said, I introduce Amanda Martin, and I will let her kind of just give an introduction of today and introduce the following speakers. Thank you.
Hey everybody, I'm Amanda Martin, and I'm introducing Rachel Berry. She's gonna be our first speaker, and Wayne Richman. I'm gonna let them give their bios, but we're really excited that they are joining us today. And everything that we cover right now is pretty generalized, and we'll set up the future speaker series for the next speaker that comes out, in the next days to cover what they need to cover. So it's everything's less generalized, a little bit more pinpointed. So I'm just going to turn it over to Rachel.
Okay, I got my mute off. Thank you so much, Amanda. I'm going to share my screen. And let's see. All right, how are we looking? Can everyone see?
Yep,
Great.
looks good.
Okay. All right, I'm super excited to be here tonight. Thanks again, Amanda, Ian, and Wayne for inviting me to join you for this series. This is industrial hemp, the basics. I'm going to get the series started off with the basics. A little bit about me. I'm Rachel Berry. I'm the CEO and founder of the Illinois Hemp Growers Association. I've been a hemp farmer in Illinois since 2019. I sit on the standing committee of hemp organizations for the National Hemp Association. I was the hemp program, or rather the hemp market manager for Pan Exchange in 2023. And I am a member and was on the board of directors for the U.S. Hemp Building Association in 2020 through 2022. Yeah, again, I've worn a lot of hats in the industry. I'm excited to be here to share with all of you. Tonight, we're going to learn a little bit, again, the basics. What is hemp? Why hemp? How do we get to hemp? How do we get to these products? A little bit about hemp's life cycle. And if we have some time, a little bit about my journey as a hemp advocate, organization head and farmer, and then a little bit of how you can get involved, just some tips from me. So moving on. Okay, so what is hemp? So this is the plant species Cannabis sativa L, and any part of the plant, including the seeds, all the derivatives, extracts, cannabinoids, isomers, acids, salts, salts of isomers, whether growing or not, with a total delta-9 tetrahydrocannabidiol concentration of not more than 0.3% on a dry weight basis. And that seems like a mouthful. Anyone who's familiar with the plant knows, there's 3 types of hemp that this applies to. Mostly today, we're going to be talking about the fiber because this is building, but there's also cannabinoids and there's grain. And there is, a trace amount of THC, or that tetrahydrocannabidiol, or cannabidiol. I'm stuttering through it, but we can all read the word right there. There is a trace amount of that in all types of the hemp plant. So it's important that we know that we're growing hemp under that 0.3% to make sure that it is hemp and does not venture into the cannabis space. So hemp has been around, throughout history. Eons, we've been using this plant as a civilization for a very long time. A very long time. It originates in Asia and has spread pretty much across the globe, through seeds, through fibers, in the pockets of nomads traveling, the globe. So it's exciting to know that this is in our history, and it's coming back through today. So moving on. Oh, it's not going. Hang on. What's our problem? Here we go. Here we go. Okay, so why hemp? Oh, where's my notes? Why hemp? So as a farmer, why hemp? We know this plant's been throughout history. It's becoming popular again as cannabis becomes, more widespread throughout the United States, and the hemp program throughout the United States. I think every state has their program now. So it's coming up. We're seeing more things made of hemp. Why hemp? Why would somebody want to get involved with hemp or be a hemp farmer or invest in hemp products? So, we're looking at three main categories here. We have the environmental impact and sustainability, the economic and ag innovation portion of it, and, our societal needs and the evolution of manufacturing. When it comes to our environment and sustainability, we can use this crop to reduce our carbon footprint. We can invest and move toward more sustainable and regenerative ag practices, and we can use it to remediate soil and water, which is pretty cool. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. I have some cool examples. As for economic and ag innovation, again, we have that sustainable ag, regenerative ag avenue. We're looking at crop diversification, more sources of income, more crops that are better for our soil that, we can be used as a cover crop or a rotation crop, a crop that's going to help with loss prevention, whether that's our topsoil or money, because we have to keep spending so much money on inputs, for our farms. And hemp is a crop that uses less water and less herbicide, pesticide, if none of those herbicides and pesticides at all. So that's good for diversification of, a farmer's field and their bottom line. Also, we have stronger local economies, whether it's food or fiber, medicine, through cannabinoids, all kinds of stuff, plastics, all kinds of things we'll talk about more. We want those things, and we're moving on to that. And then we have the alignment with the USDA's Ag Innovation Agenda, which is an initiative aimed at increasing the environment or increasing agricultural production up to 40% rather, while cutting the environmental footprint of our agriculture in the US by half by 2050. So like that's a really big initiative by USDA. And, I think it's obvious to a lot of us in the space that hemp is going to help us get there. As for societal needs and manufacturing, again, we have this push in our society. We want products that are biodegradable. We want things that are hypoallergenic. We want things that are contributing to a cleaner environment, less trash, less off gassing, those kinds of things. We want those products. Composites, biodegradable things, non-toxic. We want those things. So our society's moving toward them. Hemp fits right into that evolution. So what are some of these modern products that we can find that are made out of hemp? Well, animal bedding is one of them. Paper, biocomposites, that's like plastics. Textiles, everything from the clothing we wear to carpets and any kind of textile really. Building materials, and you'll learn more about those as the series goes on. That can be, our hempcrete, that can be hemp wood, spray-in, blocks, all kinds of things, rebar, lots of stuff on the horizon too. We have future tech like energy storage and fuel. And in fact, in Wisconsin, there's a new battery factory opening that's going to be storing energy with hemp. So that's not even that far into the future now. So that's really cool. We also have sustainable ag practices, like I talked about, water and soil remediation and conservation, and also carbon sequestration. Hemp pulls in more carbon effectively than a forest of trees does, and this is a crop that can grow in a season, even two crops per season if you live in the right space. That we can be using to make our toilet paper and our clothing and all these things that we kind of take for granted, plastics, disposables in our everyday life. Especially when it comes to trees, we can be using a much more productive and environmentally friendly crop. So again, you can, or maybe I didn't say, but you can find examples of all of these things. Even that's what my picture is explaining, even the sustainable ag. I'm part of a group in Illinois. We are one of 50 grant recipients for a USDA RCPP grant. It's a hemp pilot, and we're going to be using hemp to remediate nitrogen and sediment out of Lake Decatur. So, this is first of its kind research involving hemp, in this manner. So, the implication of research like this, if we can prove that, not only is hemp, can we make all these amazing things out of hemp that our society wants and frankly needs, but we can also be remediating our soil. I live close to the Mississippi River here in Illinois, and Illinois is one of those states that is contributing in a huge way to that dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico through the Mississippi River. So if we can use a crop like this to remediate a lot of that topsoil and just frankly the ag inputs that are washing into our waterways, into our water, not just the waterways, but the watersheds as well. If we can prove that hemp is an ally in that kind of water conservation and soil conservation, that could be huge for industry, and just the way, the way we live our lives every day. So what is it about hemp that makes it a good crop for these products? We know we can make biodegradable forks and straws and stuff like that out of corn, and it's really, really cheap to do so. Just as an example, what makes hemp a good crop for us? And just like I was saying, all of those reasons, being able to remediate our soil and water, being able to move toward regenerative and more sustainable ag practices, um that's like an obvious reason. But we also have like the kind of, and I think you might learn a little bit more about this as we get into the series, but there's like cellular reasons why hemp is a good crop for this, aside from the soil benefits and carbon benefits. Hemp, there's two main things that you want out of this hemp crop. It's the inner woody core, which is the shiv or the hurd, and then you have the long bast fibers. And this is a plant that is high in cellulose content. This is higher than wood, which is like 40 to 50% cellulose. Hemp is like 70 to 80, and that's going to contribute to the structural strength and durability of, your hemp materials and the tensile strength. There's little cavities also inside the hemp hurd that fill with air, so that is helping form that thermal barrier that folks are talking about when they're talking about building with hempcrete. It also helps the building breathe, so you don't have problems with mold and mildew and stuff like that. Low lignin content is also important when it comes to like hemp. That's why it's good. 5 to 20-ish% lignin content compared to wood. And that's like the glue that's going to hold some of these products together. And lignin can be a big problem when it comes to paper. There's a lot of lignin in wood. So, we could be making paper out of something, again, more biodegradably, they're both biodegradable, more bioavailable rather than trees. We can, and easier to produce and manufacture as well. Let's see, again, those environmental and health benefits: reduce greenhouse gas emissions, improve the soil health. It creates these non-toxic, again, no mold, no mildew, breathable air, these spaces. They also don't off gas. That's a big one. A lot of the materials that we build our houses with these days, they off gas in a big way. And hemp is something that's going to give you, better breathing air. Let's see, moving on. So let's talk a little bit about the plant life cycle. So the hemp is an annual. That means it completes its life cycle in a single growing season. It will drop seeds, and on my farm here in Illinois, I think that we're seeing a lot of this across the country. That hemp sure comes up real early in the spring. I have volunteers that have been coming up since February, and it's like 40 degrees outside today. So it comes up really early. It really likes to have well-drained, fertile soil, a mild climate, you know, between 60 and 80 degrees is its preference, but we get real hot summers here in Illinois, and you know, our hemp is done pretty well, and some varieties can be quite drought resistant too. You're gonna plant it, if you're planting it, you're gonna plant it around the last frost date, and that's between 3/4 of an inch to 1.25 inch depth. A lot of places where you get your seed, they'll let you know exactly, you know, how deep they want you to plant it, and you know, even how much nitrogen or phosphorus, potassium that you might need, depending, you know, on your soil test. Um, Hemp does need 20 to 30 inches of rainfall, or, you know, that could be irrigation one way or another. Here in Illinois, where I live in the central part of the state, that's our average rainfall. So if we don't have an especially droughty year, I do not have to water my crop or worry about irrigation, which is nice. Um, let's see. Yeah, you're gonna have to monitor your crop for, you know, whether it's you got drought or too much water. Hemp doesn't really like wet feet. It doesn't like a lot of clay. And yeah, you'll have to monitor it for pests too. That's like a big thing that's being studied across the country, is what kind of pests are getting to our hemp, especially if you're working with food or the personal care or self-care types of hemp. What kind of pests are in your hemp is a big deal. Okay, so more about the life cycle, and I have these pretty pictures here. Um, this first photo is just, if anyone plants anything, if you're a grower of any type crop, you know that you just love to see this little baby come out of the seed. I always get super excited when I see them. I'm just like hovering over them all the time. So this is germination and or emergence, and this happens within about a week or two. Some germ rates, you know, vary a little bit depending on the genetics that you have, but you should, you know, anticipate germination within the first week or two that they are in the ground. Weather, you know, will definitely, you know, be a big factor in that, but within a week or two. And germination, you know, I don't know, yeah, a week or two, 5 days. Like I've seen it as soon as 5 days, maybe even a little sooner than that when the conditions are perfect. From there, your plant is going to start going through a pretty rapid period of growth. They get big really fast, and this is the vegetative state or stage rather, and this is week 3 through 8. And what's interesting, I think I have it a little further down. Let me see. Yeah, so right now they're focused on growing in size, developing strong stem and big wide leaves, and that's going to be crucial for producing that nice fiber. When you plant for fiber, you're going to plant it pretty dense. When you're doing the other types, it gets a lot more spaced out. But for the fiber, it's pretty dense. They're going to grow nice and tall, and you're going to get these nice lean stalks, which is what you're going for. Less branching, fewer leaves, just nice straight stalks with nice big leaves on the outside. Let's see. Yeah, daylight hours. This is a plant that is relying on daylight hours. So, you know, it's going to grow the fastest when it has the nicest, sunniest days, and you know, just the right amount of water. So with the fiber, let's see, the next one is technical maturity, and that is between weeks 5 and 8. I think I might have said that. I meant to say 3 to 8 for vegetative. So technical maturity is 5 to 8. And that's when the plant is ideal for harvesting for fiber. You can let it go past that and still get some hurd from it. The fiber will not be as strong at that point. I think you're still supposed to harvest them, and we might have some experts on later in the series who can answer that a little better. You want to basically you want to take it at technical maturity. For other types of hemp, that's later on, because you want to develop those seeds or you want to develop the inflorescence. We're cutting it off before then. This is when it's best for fiber production. You get that best, those best long, strong, fast fibers, and then of course you get that hurd too. And yep, peak quality is what we're going for. There are, you know, different manufacturers who want different specs from you. They may ask you to harvest it a little sooner or a little later. That kind of thing may happen, but basically, technical maturity is what we're aiming for. So once you get to technical maturity, which you'll start to notice not only as the weeks go by, but the leaves will start to turn yellow. So you'll kind of get a clue. It is time to harvest. And like I said, the crops are cut before the seeds mature. You can use a sickle bar mower. You can use a disc mower. Both of those are like smaller crops. And then if you have bigger crops, you can use a modified double cut combine, a forage harvester, or there's a lot of fancy machinery out there on the market you can look into as well if that is, part of your farm budget. Once you get it cut down, you're going to want to ret it. So you're going to let that hemp lay on the ground. Retting is basically the process of letting microbes kind of break down that fiber. As this usually takes like, 7 to 10 days, maybe a little longer, maybe a little shorter, depending on your weather. A lot of this is weather dependent. You can actually also bale it wet. Some manufacturers don't mind having no retting done, just get it into the baler. But yeah, so you're going to want to ret it generally. That starts the breakdown. Whoops. That starts the breakdown. And if you can flip it too, that is ideal. Then you make sure you have low moisture content in your bale, cut down on any risks of getting mold or mildew or anything in there. And then it can be stored for much longer, making sure it's nice and dry. You're looking for a nice golden color, kind of similar to what you see in this picture of hemp hurd down below. Okay, so once you get to from harvest, rather, you're going to bale it. You can bale it, using traditional balers, square or round is fine, of various sizes. You're going to get it to your processor. And I'm not sure of all the processors out on the West Coast, but I think there's like about 20 across the United States. This one is a picture from IND. I visited up in Wyoming, I think they're in, or oh my gosh, I forget which state they're in, but they're up there north in the Midwest, and they have a really awesome facility. Oops, I keep hitting that button. They have an awesome facility for both fiber and grain, and they process into a couple different materials. I know they do an animal bedding, and they do, I want to say a herd, but I think they might just be doing animal bedding right now because their main line is seed actually and oil. But anyway, so you're going to want to get your hemp to a processor who is going to decorticate it. This is called a decorticator. And essentially what a decortication machine does, or a decorticator does, is separate the fibers from the herd using a mechanical separation, a chemical treatment, or some combination of both of them. Traditionally, you would use what was called a hemp rake, which was two pieces of wood, and you would pick up the handle and crush the stem in the break, and the herds would fall apart, and you'd be left with this long fiber, which you can kind of see right here are those two main raw products that you're going to get from decortication, which are going to feed into all of these lines, all those cool products that I mentioned earlier. These two raw products are going to feed into all of those products. So yeah, the bast fiber and the herd. This bast fiber can be combed out to something very, very soft. It can be cottonized. You can use it in, all kinds of applications, as a raw material, one step past that bast, or one or two steps past that bast. What else? Okay, I think that's it for that slide. I think I'm doing really good on time. Let's see. So fostering growth, I want to talk a little bit about, there's a lot of cool materials out there on the market. They're becoming more popular. Some of them, like the building materials, we're hoping that they get, not hoping, we're all pushing for. This is happening. We're pushing this forward. How do we all contribute to, making sure we're doing the best for this industry, and letting our legislators know, letting our community leaders know, just letting those know in our community that, we're here for hemp. Hemp isn't going anywhere. And, we want to be a part of that. So getting involved is, it's like all of you showed up today. That's a great first step. Sometimes showing up can be the hardest part, but, showing up, networking is super important in this industry. Join organizations and clubs if you can. Join events, go to field days, those kinds of things. They make a big impact. You learn a lot. You meet a lot of cool people. You just never know, who you'll meet and where that will take you. legislation. It's important to stay up to date with legislation that's going on in your area. You know, we also have things federally like the Farm Bill, the Industrial Hemp Act of 2023. Those are things that are going to be mentioned later on in these series, and you should definitely keep your eye out for those types of things and connect with your legislation or your lawmakers, rather. Let them know who you are. Let them know that you want to see hemp in your communities, in your state. Let them know that building materials are, you know, they're coming. Like, that brings me to research and development. There's a lot of opportunities out there. You know, we have this building code now in the United States through ASTM and IRC. You know, we have the carbon credit thing. You know, we need folks like all of us to be spreading the word, you know, about this code update, for instance, and let the people involved in permitting, you know, in all of our counties or our state. However, I think it's a little different per each state. You know, we need to let them know what's going on so we can get this included in our codes. Grassroots efforts are just the backbone of this entire industry. Universities, these, you know, the hemp businesses, the farmers, lawmakers, you know, we're all working together to make this change happen. And you can absolutely be a part of that too. And because we definitely have a little bit of time, I wanted to share a bit about myself, other than my short little bio there, and just a little bit about my journey. I started as an advocate and first generation farmer back in like 2016. I was learning about hemp as a first gen farmer. You know, I wanted to find a crop that I could grow on my farm that wasn't going to contribute to that dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico. You know, wasn't going to pollute the Mississippi or my community, but was also not going to be competitive with, you know, the Walmart in my town or the other small farmers who were, you know, selling amazing produce. I just didn't, you know, I wanted to find a crop that could contribute to my community in a positive way and also give me, you know, a bit of biodiversity on my farm and in my community and what I can offer. And that was hemp. So I became an advocate and helped see the 2018 Farm Bill come in. And then from there, saw Illinois' hemp program come through. We do have our own hemp program. Some states go through USDA. I'm proud to say that we have our own program. And from there, you know, I had learned so much over those years of advocating and just learning, you know, all I could about what it would take to become a farmer of this crop, that I started the Illinois Hemp Growers Association. And we've been doing that since 2018. And it's been amazing and quite a journey in this industry. It's been a bit of a roller coaster when it comes to federal regulations and just everybody trying to follow the rules and wondering about FDA. And, you know, there's been a lot of talk, and I think a lot of the talk about hemp kind of pushes toward the cannabinoids and fiber and grain, building materials. You know, those things kind of get left by the wayside. But especially with this new news with the USH or the U.S. Hemp Building Association having this code ready to go in the U.S. for residential building code. I think that's really going to energize a lot of us throughout the United States. And yeah, like I'm just looking forward to just seeing what's next as far as that goes. A lot of hardworking people in the U.S. Hemp Building Association, a lot of great networking. Definitely encourage you to get plugged into that community if you're interested in staying up to date with what the hemp industry or the hemp building industry is doing and where it's going. And there's a lot of farmers out there like me who are super excited to be providing the hemp herd, you know, the building materials for this next generation of building. You know, I want to see hemp buildings in my community. I want to know that there's flame, pest, mold resistant hospitals and schools and nursing homes in my community. I'm just super excited to be in this industry and to be supporting, like I said, the great folks in it. Okay, I am ready for questions if there are questions. And I'm always open for questions. My email is at the bottom. If anyone cares to take it down, always open to talk. And yeah, any questions, I'm happy.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rachel. We actually do. We have a few questions. One, you mentioned pests, but related to pests, what are you seeing, or what should people watch out for pests with hemp crops and methods to alleviate or prevent pest problems?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So Purdue University has some awesome resources that I'd be happy to drop in the chat in just a few minutes once I'm off my slides, about all the different pests that are being collected through the United States. They have a database of it. For me personally, on my farm, I am a big proponent of cover crops and rotation crops and plant allies. So for me, keeping the bug population down, and the kinds of bugs that I get are like grasshoppers, which seem kind of harmless if your crops are getting really, really tall, but it's creepy to just see like grasshoppers on everything, munching all your leaves. You don't want pests all over your plants, but companion planting for me, and planting other plants that will draw those bugs to them instead of my hemp, is a big part of me keeping um, pests off my crop. And I believe there is one pesticide. It's either a pesticide or an herbicide that's approved now for hemp. But there really aren't many options to choose from if you're going to be, growing hemp and be certified, through the United States to do so, and registered with FSA and using the appropriate inputs and all of that. There's not a lot to choose from. So it is important that farmers know, rotation crops and cover crops especially are a really good option to keep pests down.
Awesome, thank you. Based on your experience in Illinois, how integrated is the hemp value chain? Are farmers processing the hemp into final products or selling to different manufacturers or even wholesalers?
That's a great question. Here in Illinois, we have exactly one processor right now. And it is located in the southern part of our state, and we have a lot of growers in the northern part of the state and a lot of clay in the southern part of the state. So getting fiber, and yeah, we only have one fiber processor, 0 grain processors, and lots of cannabinoid processors. So most of our farmers are cannabinoid farmers. A handful of them, including myself, are fiber farmers. Some are sending their fiber out of state, even all the way down to Texas. There's a big processor down that way. Some are working with Tiger Fiber, is the name of the processor that's in here in Illinois, right on the border of Missouri. And some of us, like myself, because it is cost prohibitive for me to get, I'm a small farmer. I have 13 acres, and I only farm an acre or less of hemp, because I use it on my farm as animal bedding and mulch. So I'm not making a profit on my hemp, but I am saving myself some money, and doing my farm a service by keeping outside inputs off my farm, and growing the hemp because it is useful for me. So that's kind of a loaded question, just because there aren't that many fiber growers or processors in my state, but we do have a limited market to send our products to, and then those processors contract with the farmers, and from once the product is in the processor's hands, they distribute it through their avenues and markets.
Awesome. Just a couple more. As hemp expands, do you see it as a rotation crop or, in most cases, an annual crop?
I see it as a rotation crop, absolutely. You can monocrop anything. I hope that we won't be monocropping hemp. Surely it's going to happen at some point, especially now. There's even a GMO variety of hemp even. But if you want the best for your soil, the best quality fiber from your crop, like it's definitely best to crop rotation. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. And then kind of related to the pest management, what are ideal companion plants for hemp crops?
Yeah, that's a really a really great one. I'm mostly familiar with like Illinois native flowers, so I can name a bunch of those. But your native plants in California, those are going to be the best that you can plant around. Strips of pollinators are the best that you can do for your hemp.
Awesome. Okay, awesome. Thank you. And I think maybe even Wayne or Amanda can also speak to that for the state of California. Perfect. Okay, one last question came in, and then we'll move on to Wayne. Any examples of natural fertilizers that you would use?
Yeah, so I use chicken compost. Works awesome. I mean, even better if you can get animal rotation into your crop rotation. That's where you have, for instance, 3 plots. You start with animals, and then after you move the animals over, then you plant a cover crop or pollinator. After that season, you just kind of scooch down and rotate through your plots, and you're always moving animals, cover crops, flowers, and then your main crop. So it's just a system that just rotates around your farm. The best is animal. I have not used, I've been certified naturally grown on my farm, which is kind of a grassroots option for those who are like moving toward organic certification, but maybe don't have the money or just don't want to do all the paperwork. There's a lot of reasons maybe not to go fully organic. But naturally certified grown, you have to use all naturally certified methods of removing pests, treating your soil, that kind of stuff. That website would be really good to look into also because they'll give you a lot of recommendations. I feel like I'm just kind of rambling now, but I hope that answered your question.
What about fertilizer from fish waste?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Fish waste is a good one too. And I mean, I'm not located
Okay.
near the ocean, so that one's like a little harder for me, but definitely being located on the coast, I bet that is in much better supply for a reasonable price.
Totally. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Wayne, do you mind taking a stab at those two, the processing question and then the companion crop question before we move on?
Sure, and I can speak specifically to Central Coast Pest Management. Um, so as part of the California Hemp Foundation, being president, we sponsored research farms up and down the state. Our very first one was at the McGrath Ranch, right off the 101, there in Camarillo. So that'll speak quite well to the Central Coast farmers. So beneficial pests, as they're known in farm parlance, and I'm happy to say I've been hanging with my farmers for the last few years, learning all of these subtle, language bits and pieces, like inputs, right? Just inputs or anything like nitrogen, fertilizers, or whatever into the soil. But what they found, for example, is that in the most predominant pest in Ventura, and seemingly, elsewhere, because we did have a research farm up there in Slow. And we did have one up in the northern part of Santa Barbara County, and really it's about caterpillars, and it's seemingly in the Tri-County, and so wasps are a beneficial pest to release in your fields. They will eat the worms, caterpillars. Outside of that, the plant has a lot of natural resistance to pests. And that's another amazing thing about this crop. I'll get into it a little bit when it's my turn to talk. What was the other question that you wanted to know about? Natural fertilizers?
Well, both companion crops, and then just a piece about the processing industry in California, I think would be helpful.
Okay, well, I think some of that, in all due respect, should probably just fall on into my segment so that I don't step on more of Rachel's time, or anybody who wants to ask her questions. But I'll get into that.
Okay.
Okay, so stay tuned.
All right. Perfect. And Rachel, thanks so much. That was great. For everyone, we will share Rachel's slides and her contact information for any follow-up. with that, is this a good transition into Wayne's piece?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Alrighty.
Okay. So good afternoon, everybody. Really glad you're here today. This is a really important subject for the future of our farmers, our environment, and the world at large. I'm not a hippie, but I used to be one. I'm just so you know where my background is and kind of a little bit of my point of view. I'm a former Apple business development executive in the education space, formerly responsible for the likes of um, Los Angeles Unified School District, Los Angeles County Office of Education. And prior to that, I was the Apple point of contact at Jet Propulsion Laboratory, the NASA lab down the road, a piece from all of us. So as a serial entrepreneur, I'm always interested in all kinds of interesting opportunities. And with hemp, so let me get into where I transitioned into hemp. So I am currently president of the California Hemp Association. I am president and founder of the California Hemp Foundation. I am founder of hempcrafthomes.com, if that's something you'd like to go check out. And I've done many other things in the past. So part of my education background that directly feeds into why I can speak to you guys today includes I'm a member of the California Crop Improvement Association, which is the only seed certification agency for the state of California. I am a graduate of the UC Davis Hemp Seed Breeding and Production course. I'm also a graduate of their agricultural drone survey course. I am former Region 2 leader, which includes California, Hawaii, and Nevada for the U.S. Hemp Building Association. Amanda is taking my place. Anyway, without going too deep into that, I have a background, a serious background, because I'm seriously interested in making sure this crop is a part of your future. It's been a part of my past. It's going to be a part of it's part of my present. And as you can tell, I'm a little on the gray side of things. So I've seen a lot of what this plant can do over the years. So part of what I'm going to speak about today is the political environment, why you're not seeing it everywhere, how you can help so we can see this everywhere, and really change the paradigm in how our politicians approach hemp. Clearly, we're all aware that cannabis is cannabis is cannabis, except there are varieties within the species, okay? So while Cannabis sativa L is the genome across all varieties, the ones with the THC that you get at the dispensaries is nothing like the THC-free hemp plant that we're talking about today. This hemp plant is, you could see with some of the pictures that Rachel was able to show you, is kind of more like bamboo, meaning it's long and straight, doesn't have a lot of offshoots. Those plants that look like Christmas trees or look like marijuana bushes are in fact grown for cannabinoid extraction almost 9 out of 10 times, if not 10 out of 10 times. So where does hemp come into the world? Rachel talked about it started in Asia and it land raced across the world, and it's been used by Europe continuously and the rest of the planet continuously. And I say continuously because as of the 2018 Farm Bill, hemp became once again available to be grown in this country without going to jail. And you go, what? Well, the 1937 Marijuana Tax Act, promulgated by many other interests such as oil and forestry and other products like that, sought to put the kibosh on this crop, both for the marijuana reasons, I can get into it. It had racist overtones, jazz musicians going after white women, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All bunk, of course. But it has been non-available as a crop for farmers in this country for about 84 years. So several hurdles in that. So the 2018 Farm Bill was signed, and hemp has been made a commodity crop and removed from the DEA schedule of illegal plants. So that's the
I
good news, right?
hate to interrupt you,
Yeah.
but I mean, as far as accepting hemp as a viable product, how does it replace aggregate like sand and stone?
We're not talking about that just yet. We'll get to the specifics of it as a building material. I thought I'd give you a little bit of history, right? So if you could hold on to that question afterwards, I'm going to actually leave that for Amanda because she happens to be a licensed builder and has worked with hemp, and I'm well aware of her projects. Okay, does that work? Whoever that was that asked the question. Okay, so hemp has been a part of the founding of this country. George Washington grew hemp. Thomas Jefferson grew hemp. The draft of our Constitution is on hemp paper. Betsy Ross's flag is made of hemp fiber. Levi Strauss and Company got the reputation for jeans that don't wear out or clothing that doesn't wear out because he took the canvas sales from the ships that came in, bringing in the miners looking for the gold rush. And canvas happens to be Dutch for cannabis cloth. Wow. So when you make, just so you know, hemp fiber is the strongest fiber known to mankind and womankind and anybody's kind, okay, on this planet. And there is just like a tremendous multi-thousand-year history of humanity and hemp without the THC component. So when you flash forward into the very specific subject of building with hemp, hemp has some incredible basic properties, such as it's antimicrobial by nature. So obviously mold is not an issue for hemp in most climate types. Also hempcrete, which is different than concrete. There is no sand. There might be some mineral binder, but it's primarily hemp hurd and lime with water, which is a building material type that's been used for a couple of thousand years across the globe. So that's the basics of it. California, in many ways, has many examples of hempcrete homes, one of which is in Hopland, California. If you go to hempcrafthomes.com, you can see not only the building plans, but the finished product. And it is earthquake approved and sitting overlooking wine country. So these things actually do exist. They're credible. What we're here doing is helping you understand what the future may look like in terms of alternative building materials that you may want to incorporate into your projects. I'd like you to think of it more as a not structural, but more of an insulation type material. You build with a posted beam construction as your basic methodology for construction of most hemp homes at this point. Yes, there are some hemp blocks, but they're not load bearing. There's only one that we know of that is load bearing. And no doubt you'll hear about that from one of the presenters in this series coming up. It's recently been patented. So we're moving forward in big ways. So from my view, and I've been involved in California since 2019, actually 2017, with getting hemp going. Under the California Hemp Foundation, we had 12 research farms up and down the state, total of, I believe it was more than 1,400 acres. So we tried various different counties and to help farmers get a jump start. Really been quite a learning experience. So part of what goes on in California, which we'd like to hopefully inform you of its goodness so that you can help in turning the heads of legislators who are seemingly focused on marijuana and the taxation benefits thereof, as opposed to the green building and green deal opportunities that are available in California. So right now, there's no distinction technically between hemp for fiber and grain versus hemp for cannabinoid. And to touch on that briefly, under there is a new farm bill being promulgated right now in Congress. You wouldn't know it, what's going on with Congress these days, but we've been working on that for close to 2 years. I'm also the communications chair of the Standing Committee of Hemp Organizations as sponsored under the NHA. And in that position, I talk a lot about this subject. And we've got a great team over at NHA and other great team players such as Rachel and Amanda, and I can name a whole host of others whose names you'll hear, no doubt, going over the next few sessions. But right now, we do have what's called the fiber grain exemption that is being knitted into the current farm bill, and that will separate out fiber and grain varieties so that ag commissioners and law enforcement can have a visual clue as opposed to having to test everything. Right now, if you wanted to grow hemp in California, several things have to take place. One, you need to register. You need to pay $900+ for that right to register in the state of California with your local ag office. You have to specify what it is that you're growing for and what your expected outcomes are. And to that, they also want a criminal background check. I mean, technically, this is a right to farm state. This is a commodity crop. So technically, it's illegal for them to ask you to do that in the state of California, but most people tend to want to work with local authorities in a positive way and try to follow even new rules that they may pop up at any given time. So that's part of the environment here in California. There are some counties that are smarter about it. I'd like to say that Ventura is one of those. We've had good luck with our conversations. Also, our very first hemp research farm, again, was on the McGrath Ranch in Camarillo. Ventura has also had some interesting other brushes with hempcrete. You'll see a fire video. I think Amanda's going to be showing off little pieces of it. The full 5-minute video was shot in the County of Ventura, City of Fillmore, and done by the fire chief, Keith Garillo, and his team to show how fireproof, indeed, hempcrete actually is. So you'll see it being burned at 1,000 degrees and at 3,000 degrees with a road flare, and the outcome is pretty self-explanatory and pretty amazing. So we have this unbelievable crop, and I'm sure most of you grew up with parents and grandparents going, if it sounds too good to be true, it can't be. I'm 70 years old, and I can tell you, I've yet to find out anything about this crop that I'm telling you about or that any of the presenters are telling you about that isn't true. It's dumbfounding as to why we're not using it more. Let me give you some other examples of where it's being used. Your i3 BMWs, the plastic in the dash, the plastic on the door panels, the plastic in the door panels is all hemp plastic. The cushioning is hemp fiber. Same with many of the Mercedes models. So the Europeans have been using this for a long time, and you can indeed find out many examples of that on YouTube. And it's really quite amazing. So here we are at a tipping point. The production facilities in this country, as Rachel has pointed out, are popping up across the nation in various places. We don't have quite the facilities built out in California for one good reason. We're not growing it much here in California due to the political environment and the licensing environment at the California Department of Food and Agriculture. So right now,
What about the 49 states?
Pardon me?
What about the other 49 states? How's it
Well,
going there?
and I'm speaking for California. The 49 states some of them are more open than others right now. California seems to be standing in the roadway for hemp to become mainstream around the issue related to smokable hemp flower. So you have most of the licenses right now. Just so you know, a recent number came out, I think it was 2 weeks ago. 56% of all the smokable hemp flower in the country is coming out of California. So it's hard to promote these more serious uses, despite their truthfulness in the state of California, when you have the political headwinds backed up by the marijuana industry, not by the building industry. So we're trying to push that beyond that. Folks like Amanda have built hemp buildings. I've been involved with hemp building projects. Rachel is part of a leadership across the country that is helping promulgate good hemp practices and good farming practices. We've been well received at the World Ag Expo, which we've been at the last 3 years up in Tulare. Farmers want to grow it. It's just, it's taking a little bit more time. We're not quite at the tipping point we need to be at in California. But with your help and your interest, clearly we will be. So we have a couple of pending projects that, in fact, when I say we, Amanda and I, we work together. And we will be making some announcements about those in the near future, which will bring it near and dear to those of you in the Tri-County area. What's going on across the country in terms of, you have various states that actually are banning hemp, mainly because of the issues related to cannabinoids. We're not seeing a lot of growth in some of those areas. And yet this is the most green crop you could be growing. Some of the benefits, and this is a number from Dr. Peter Schwartz, professor at Cal Poly SLO, 9 tons per acre when grown as fiber hemp, meaning a higher density, more like a bamboo density, as opposed to a 3 or 4 foot circular spacing between plants, which is what cannabinoid and smokable hemp plants desire. When it is grown in that manner, you're looking at 9 tons per acre. And that's every growing cycle, which is approximately 110 days. Pretty awesome. That beats cutting down trees all to heck. And right there is the reason to start growing it. The soil remediation, meaning the roots have this special phytoremediation capability that sucks the bad stuff out of the soil, okay? Sucks heavy metals out of the soil, sucks pesticides out of the soil. So if you use it as a rotation crop, has been tested here in California. One example is strawberries. If you used 1 acre grew 1 acre strawberries, you're going to use approximately 4 acre feet of water. If you then grow as a rotation crop, same acreage with hemp, you're going to find several things. One, you're only using 1.5 feet of water. So that's a great resource in terms of low water usage here in the state of California. You're pulling nasty stuff out of the soil. And at the end of the day, you've got healthier soil, which produces a greater yield for the subsequent strawberry crops of 15 to 20% greater yields. Now, right there, if that isn't a big clue as to why people should be growing hemp, why farmers should be growing hemp, and while we consumers should be looking at hemp in all of its varieties in the industrial usage, you'll find it's an amazing crop. So the hempcrete, component, aside from being fire resistant, being mold resistant, is amazing in that hemp can be used to make what's called hemp wood. So you could actually make the binders they're using for hemp wood is soy binders for the most part. So again, very biosustainable and green as far as the materials and their ratings go. So, you know, I'm pleased to say we're making a lot of headway. And as Rachel pointed out, pardon me. As Rachel pointed out, the International Residential Code has approved hempcrete as a building material. We have many examples of it in California that have been approved in various counties. So part of why I say in various counties is because California is unlike every other state. So instead of one state mandate, one state rule, all counties, we have basically 58 fiefdoms, 58 counties which were once states within the republic known as California. Hence, part of our problem, why we have 58 police departments, sheriff's departments, seats of government, etc. And California law allowed some of them to ban the growing of hemp. Doesn't mean you can't grow marijuana, right? Because you'd be paying a lot of high fees, and that's what they want. But growing hemp seems too difficult for many counties in this state. 22 of them at last count have banned the growing of hemp for no reason other than they've just decided to do it. For those of you who live in Santa Barbara, you might be a little shocked to find out Humboldt is not the place, the Emerald Triangle up north is not the place where most marijuana is grown in California. It's Santa Barbara. And for those of you who drive up the 101 through Carpinteria, you can tell it during harvest time, during flowery time. It smells like skunk. So there's a surprise. And again, why there? Well, it replaced the flower growers. There were lots of hoop houses there. The flower industry went south of the border where growing flowers is cheaper. For all the talk in California, we're not very friendly to farmers. And that's something that you all can help us all change by contacting your local assembly person, your local congressperson, and make certain that they're aware of all the benefits of the hemp crop. And it really checks off most of the boxes, if not all the boxes, in what California likes to promote as its greenness, its green awareness, its green wokeness. I hate to tell you, kids, we really need to push on these folks to make them do what they say they're going to do in their campaign speeches and promote the kinds of things that give us the green economy that we all want. And quite frankly, at the bottom line of all of this is that it's helping our environment, it's helping our farmers, it's helping our farm workers in ways that are been pronounced by most of us up and down the state. We want healthier environment, we want organic crops, we want to pay farm workers fair wages, not just subsistent wages. We have a pending project right now for farm worker housing using hempcrete. Just to let you know, there's a lot of things on the horizon in California. So there's some of the good news in California. Anyway, there's a lot to be said about what hemp can do for the environment. I'm going to let others get into that a little bit deeper. I'm going to try to answer some of the questions that we have popping up. One of the first ones from Jeffrey, why not grow Canaf or Manila instead? Neither one of those make good building materials. That would be the main reason right there. Colorado, Marco is mentioning Colorado is very open and pushing ahead. Yes, in many ways they are. I'll leave it at that. I've been to Colorado, I've talked with their governor. Yes, in some ways they are. They certainly, the governor is a lot more aware of it. Rohan is asking, in which part of the crop do heavy metals get concentrated in when the crop is used to bioremediate. So it's phytoremediation, and it captures it in the root ball. So that's where that is. And this is where I need to throw out one very important non sequitur that folks have brought up to me, like, it's being used in Chernobyl to clean up the soil. As somebody who's worked at Jet Propulsion Laboratory and at NASA and worked with lots of PhDs, that is a fantasy that's not true. Never going to be true, because anything stuck in the soil is going to become radioactive. And if you want to argue that that lessens the amount of radioactivity in the soil, the answer is no, it does not. So unfortunately, this is the one area where hemp, if somebody tells you that story, look at them with a little side eye, a little shade, because it's not true. Wish it was. Otherwise, we'd be hearing about this at Fukushima as well, and we're not. Okay? So moving on from there, any other questions that someone might have? Let's see, question, given all its virtues, can it be used for commercial landscaping? What would be controversial? I suppose it depends. If you're using it as a mulch, no controversy there whatsoever. If you're using it as a decorative plant, the California state law for growing hemp, unlike marijuana, which is going to be really funny here, under marijuana, you can grow 6 plants as an adult. I've tested that. I've grown it myself. I know. Under California law for hemp, it's 1/10 of an acre. If you're a backyard gardener, that's an awful lot of land to be giving over to this crop. But technically, that's the law. I'm of a mind that if you're of a certain personality, you might just try to grow 6 plants of hemp just to try it out and claim it's marijuana, low quality, low THC marijuana. That's not legal advice, but that's what I'm doing. And I dare the cops or the sheriffs to come by and demand a test, because 6 marijuana plants are legal, 6 hemp plants are not legal. Minimum quality of hemp, 1/10 of an acre. So you can see a lot of small farmers don't even get a chance to grow hemp in a small managed way to see how it could benefit their smaller farms. Larger farmers can do that. Anyway, let me see if I can answer some more. What groups are operating in Santa Barbara regarding hemp? You could contact your local agricultural commissioner's office, and you can ask for a list of all the hemp licensees in Santa Barbara, and that'll get you the most up-to-date list. If you can't get it from them, you can get it from the CDFA. If for some reason they don't do that, I usually have a list. I will tell you this, it's a sad story. Here's how sad it is. 2019, the first year that hemp licenses were available in the state of California, we had 1,400 registrants. As of 10 days ago, the last Industrial Hemp Advisory Board meeting, it was announced that we only had 8. 8 versus 1,400. The reason being is that the environment created by local government, which includes your ag commissioner, your sheriff, and your local legislative bodies, has created that negative environment. Obviously, something is amiss there. Something is, I'd like to say, a little two-faced when we talk about the hypocrisy of supporting farmers, greener environment, and using green, sustainable building materials. So while I've said some of these negatives, I will tell you I'm quite pleased at the progress in the last couple of years, specifically the IRC code, and some of the other legislative things that have come across that make hemp as a building material now viable. So I think that pretty much covers everything I wanted to cover today. For those of you who wish to reach out to me, ask more questions, I can be reached through the California Hemp Association.org website or exec director at calhemporg.com. I'll type it into the chat box here. There you go. And I'll give you the Hempcraft Homes, where you can see the real deal. And by the way, it's an Airbnb home. So if you were in Sonoma County and you wanted to stay overnight in this homes, you can do so. There you go. So the good news is start planning to build with a better material. There's a lot of interest from architects who are starting to design for these kinds of biosustainable materials. And so the future looks bright in that regard, having better choices. So Ian, Amanda, anything else you would like me to cover? Anybody else got any other questions? Let's see, Rohan, how does hemp increase the fertility of the soil? Well, starting with good soil here in along the coast and coastal cities and counties, we have mostly what's a clay, sandy loam, as farmers like to call it, which is really good for growing crops in general, which is why we grow such abundance of crops in these counties and in California in general. It just helps create healthy soils because of the phytoremediation that takes place. And obviously, if you don't overpower that with inorganic inputs being fertilizers, things like nitrogen and other things like that, you'll find that your soils don't degrade from those inputs. So have any hemp homes been built in Tri-County? Well, not just yet. We've got Sonoma, Nevada County, Calexico, Los Angeles County. Those are just some of the few that I know about. Alex, there is not one quite yet going up in Ojai. We've met with the folks who look like they're going to build it, but nothing has started except grading of the property. I know they're still in plan approval. I will tell you that Amanda and I have met with Planning Department at Ventura County, and they are not against this crop at all. In fact, they like to tell you they've even approved rammed earth homes. So I think the environment has really changed in many ways, and this is now a credible crop. By the way, Alex Sexsmith is also one of the regional leaders for USHBA and an architect formerly of California. So another person obviously to reach out to. Just for those of you who don't know, who just jumped on, you're very lucky. You've really got the A team in terms of Rachel and Amanda and Alex and Ian and others in this green building space. And so we didn't have that just a few years ago. So thumbs up, we're in the right direction. Do we know of any way to remove the heavy metals in the hemp roots? I have not heard of any specific way, but I do know that it's going to require some form of chemicals. To what formulation, I have no idea. So I'm sorry I can't answer that specifically. Maybe somebody else later in the series can answer that. Any other questions? Okay.
Awesome.
So with that, I will turn it back to Ian and Amanda, and thank you all for taking the time to listen to me talk and listen to this series in general.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Wayne. And yeah, again, great engagement to the chat. Thank you all. Amanda, you want to round this thing out for us?
Sure. It looks like we've lost a few people on this journey already. So we are going to be getting through this series with, the other days that we're talking more about building, permitting, a lot of the science and education behind it. There's a lot of questions that have been asked that are definitely going to can be answered by other experts and professionals in that area. So I guess just hold tight. As far as my presentation goes, I've shared some presentations with the AIA, and it's more like a general overview, lunch and learn, where I go over everything, and it just touches on all of this stuff that we're doing throughout this series. But my presentation right now is there's gonna be part of me is gonna have that nervousness, and the other part of me, you might get a little soapbox. So I'll try to be not so preachy. But it's about the community, and I think understanding what the community needs is the whole point of why we need to grow with hemp and build with hemp, and it's not just hemp but other green building practices as well. So let me share my screen here, and I don't have as many pretty pictures as Rachel, but I definitely have more than Wayne. Let's see here. Share screen. Share sound. Okay. Can everybody see that?
Yep, looks good.
Okay, so the purpose of this presentation is to open up a conversation about initiating a building development plan that will have multiple positive impacts on our community. I'm going to explain who I am, what my intentions are, and who can benefit from the possibility of collaboration. I noticed that it doesn't really matter what you tell others you do, your passions, or why you got into whatever. They take what they hear that benefits them or justifies their own intentions. This is very much the reason why everything I have done to this point makes no sense to so many, but makes so much sense to me. I insist on taking a step back from moments to take in the big picture in everything, every organism and situation placed in front of us. If the big picture was the first line we addressed in any relationship or intention, the world as we know it would be a better place, from our relationships, our consumption, how we build, how we do business, healthcare, politics, and everything in between. Obviously, even though it doesn't matter what I tell others I do, I'm going to share it today anyway. I grew up very poor. Many would point out that I struggled my entire life. There were times it took some serious energy to crawl out of that mindset, map out alternative solutions, and set my path to success. I've been a teacher, an artist, a nurse. I've come to learn that more importantly, I am a mother, a wife, a daughter, a friend, a neighbor, and the consistency of those things is where change is brought about in my profession and in my community. So my name is Amanda Martin. I'm the founder and CEO of Renewal Revolution, a green building and sustainability construction social enterprise. I am on the board of directors for the Central Coast Green Building Council, the CCGBC, a chapter of the United States Green Building Council, the USGBC. I oversee our social impact department and seek to bring social issues to the table when answering questions on climate, environment, and economy. I am also a regional leader for the U.S. Hemp Building Association, and my place in that role is very similar to my other roles. Create a positive change. I am Amanda. Yes, I build stuff. But the skill set of contractor, construction, the tradeswoman, and construction company owner It's what everyone sees and hears, and it's really only a small percentage of what I am about. My vision is to develop models that demonstrate construction and building sector practices that spur innovation and specifically protect against drought, wildfire, flood, heat, and mudslides, while also helping the public sector address poverty, mental illness, homelessness, addiction, and inadequate education. This effort involves training the public, collaborating with local businesses, nonprofit organizations, community volunteers, and government at all levels, local, state, and federal. Sustainable building practices are critical if we're going to enable our local economies to withstand the disasters, our region has experienced over the past several years, and they will solve many economic problems. Some of the biggest answers are right in front of us, be it these ever-growing landfills or materials easily grown. There are alternatives all around us that function better than what we've been doing all these years. It's quite ironic that they are considered alternative when they check off all the big picture boxes. Many trades professionals have reached out to me asking how to maximize efforts to create a standard for resilience through sustainable mindfulness and legitimate longevity. Longtime professionals and emerging professionals are finding a common ground to move society forward with climate sound practices. Some of you have already begun work on tiny home villages. Some of you work in transitional housing and shelters. Some work in missions and outreach. Some are small businesses. Some work in education. Some in government building departments. Some work for county medical and behavioral departments. Some for community nonprofits and programs. Some have the ability to tap into government resources and funding to help. And some are individuals that have been transformed by many of you working together to bridge these gaps in society. Most importantly, our common ground is that we all have a stake in these industries and/or these communities. We want to rally the community to work together in holistically addressing the development of the underserved and untouched. There are many available resources for this plan. For instance, the Justice 40 initiative was put together last year to stimulate communities around the nation to claim funding that would improve local economies while providing solutions to long-standing problems. We would like to develop affordable housing in the form of tiny homes, ADUs, and mixed-use multi-unit buildings. These structures will be built sustainably and using ethically sourced, low-carbon, clean materials. They are healthier to live in and structurally will mitigate against fire, flood, heat, drought, mold, pests, and coastal breakdown. Their upkeep is minimal, if not non-existent, with energy use being a fraction of the standard dwelling. From them, we can house individuals and programs for the homeless, rehabs, and clinical settings, transitional living, low to mid income, student housing, respite care, independent living for the developmentally disabled, migrant workers, veterans, and wards of the state. Through every phase, utilizing workshops and workforce development to create jobs in multiple sectors of the community, as well as bring mindfulness to the environment. Mindfulness to the environmental, economic, and personal resiliency. So I'm going to share a couple of the buildings that I've built with hemp. This is a building in Calexico, and I'm pretty proud of it because I used a lot of we did a lot of workforce development on this. I paid migrant workers, developmentally disabled. I pulled homeless men and women off of the streets and said, I'll give you money to teach you a trade. And they were blown away at how amazing it was, this material was. While we were building it, before the windows and doors and all of that were on and before the walls were complete, it was 30 degrees cooler in this building. And at the time it was like 120 degrees outside. So it was already, kind of blowing everybody's mind before it was done. And I'm extremely proud of this. This is the first fully permitted hempcrete ADU in California. And I'm happy to have been a part of that. This is some other things that I've built. This is a chicken coop. This is part of a project that the homeowners, they lived in, their entire property burned down in the Woolsey fire. and they wanted to, you know, test out hempcrete on a chicken coop. So I was excited to be a part of this because it was not just building things back the way they were, it's building it back better than it was to mitigate against disaster. And that's a firewall there that I built. I often wonder and have several times asked the state and county about their desire to take the time to address multiple steps towards resilience in each phase of development. Too often, carbon sequestration, clean materials, and mitigating against natural disasters gets pushed aside. We are left with expensive homes that are cheaply built with unhealthy materials that require a lot of maintenance long after funding has run out. Furthermore, they don't mitigate against fire, flood, heat, or coastal breakdown. If the community comes together to address green and sustainable building from seed to structure, we can address climate, farm, energy, disaster, and workforce development issues, as well as all the programs from which the community can benefit when focusing on the housing crisis, which is devastating our economy. So this is a me bringing my nursing roots into it. This is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And if you look at this, you know, you can't move up to self actualization without having your esteem needs met. You can't get to having your esteem needs met. You know, if anything underneath you hasn't been met, then you can't get to that top rung up there. And I think this is extremely important to look at it from a community standpoint, because, you know, individuals are just a smaller version of what the community and society is. So let's see here. As you can see, physiological needs are the foundation to human needs. They are the foundation to society and civilization. And the second level of needs are security and safety. Putting this into community standards, what does this look like? It's really easy to see that the foundation in society is broken. I watch a lot of wilderness survival documentaries. I grew up in a family where my dad is an Eagle Scout. Uh, like nursing, once you're an Eagle Scout, you're always an Eagle Scout. My grandparents hunted and fished and went camping and taught extreme survival and earth grounding. To this day, I'm often barefoot and seeking the stability of the earth has to offer. But in any survival situation, what is the first step? Build a shelter, preferably close to a water source, shade, which is also typically a grounded structure that also helps provide some sort of geothermal transference. So shelter is important. That foundation is what makes it all work. Society's foundation is broken. Would you want to purchase a house with a bad foundation? Heck no. Nothing ever gets better or fixed when you have a bad foundation. It makes the home unsafe. The roof, the windows, the floor, plumbing, the entire building envelope is dependent on the stability of the foundation, as is society. So society's foundation, the first part would be clean air, water, food, shelter, energy, clothes, calm. I don't think we talk about that enough. I mean, imagine an ambient body temperature all the time. Stabilize these things for individuals, families, and businesses, and you stabilize the foundation of the community. Then we can move on to the second level of the requirements, and that is security and safety. Without the first, you cannot have the second. Security looks like jobs, disaster mitigation, and not waiting for the shoe to drop. It's jobs, education, first responders, healthcare options. It's knowing the protection is in place and that the roof isn't going to cave in on you or on your life. At this time, society is over here throwing band-aids on the foundation and only addressing feelings of accomplishment and fostering health through creative activities, and when individuals and communities have no basic needs being met. And when they are met, it's this illustration that they are being met, but the approach is all wrong. What we need is community-based development. Hold on a second, I think I may have, there we go. What we need is community-based development, addressing development from a shared value approach. In the business world, shared value is selling or promoting something that has value across the board. I've heard this example in seminars and classes I've taken over the years. Selling coffee for a cause stimulates the consumer, the business, and the coffee bean farmer. I'm not just talking about corporate social responsibility, and I'm definitely not talking about taking a vow of poverty to promote the longevity of the community. This is the sweet spot. Shared value looks at the big picture and says, how can we all win? How can we all thrive? It requires looking at every step from seed to structure to program, with the mindset that every element is a stakeholder, and every area required to bring about this forward motion as one moving community. Consideration to the impact success has on the next stakeholder. Soil, water, air, the climate is a stakeholder. The farmer, the rancher, their employees, stakeholders. The processing and supply chain operations, every individual and step forward, stakeholders. The food we eat, be it raised or grown, stakeholders. The individuals consuming that food, stakeholders. Housing, stakeholders. The builders, sellers, buyers, renters, patients, businesses, employees in these buildings, the infrastructure, stakeholders, the family unit, stakeholders, even the government are stakeholders. Your great-grandchildren are stakeholders. The sweet spot is not for the faint of heart, but it is 100% attainable. The difference between relief, rehabilitation, and development. Relief is an effort to stop the bleeding. It is the urgent and temporary provision of emergency aid to reduce immediate suffering from a natural or man-made crisis, and it primarily utilizes a provider-receiver dynamic. Rehabilitation is an effort to restore people back to their pre-crisis state after the initial bleeding has stopped, while also laying the basis for future development. In rehabilitation, people begin to contribute to improving their situation. And development is walking with people across time in ways that move all people involved, both the helpers and the helped, closer to being in the right relationship with God, the earth, self, others, and the rest of nature than they were before. This involves people identifying their problems, creating solutions, and implementing those solutions. Development is often referred to as empowerment. It avoids doing for and focuses on doing with. So remember that the vast majority of materially poor communities and individuals require development, not relief or rehabilitation. They are not coming out of a crisis and they are not helpless. Rather, they are in a chronic state of poverty and have some ability to participate in their own progress. If we want to see this happen in our lifetime, community development needs to get away from needs-based development. Needs-based development is a development approach that focuses on the deficits and shortcomings in the life of a person or community. Solutions to individuals or community come from the outside. What we need to work on more is on asset-based development. Asset-based development is an approach that focuses on identifying, mobilizing, and connecting the intrinsic capabilities, skills, and resources of a person or community problems. Polish assets and help guide to the proper tools, and we set the community up for empowerment. It's getting away from paternalism, which erodes our community and keeps them in a state of always desperately needing. Paternalism is habitually doing things for people that they can do for themselves. I'm particularly guilty of this. I have a bleeding heart, and I just want to immediately heal brokenness and fill a need. I've learned that the energy required for that isn't a one-time deal. I end up creating dependency on my bleeding heart instead of fostering an environment to thrive. As they say, feed a man a fish or teach him to fish, and he could feed himself and teach others. So I'm going to share this slide before I start getting into how we can go about this. Yeah, I guess enjoy this. This is the video from actually I think I'm gonna go back a little bit. So as Rachel and Wayne discussed, there are many uses of hemp. All green building facilitates plant to program opportunities, whereby growing or harvesting materials from the earth to use in our everyday lives. to many longstanding problems, hemp is a major overachiever in this realm. The plant gives back to the earth. It saves water. It's a neutralizer for emissions on every level, groundwater and air, even after it's implemented into feed, textiles, and building materials. So here is hemp standing up to fire. That was our Fillmore Fire Department in Ventura County. And Chief Keith signed off on all of that. And it's pretty exciting for the growth of building with hemp in our community. And this next video is of my partner, Randall. You might see him, you know, in all the amongst yourselves. This was us. We had to pull back on a permit and put a shear wall in, and this was a hemp wall that was built correct. And it is very hard to break down.
Took an hour to do that, over an hour.
Hempcrete done right. So fun fact, hempcrete durability increases over time as the lime continues to undergo carbonization for several years. So simply put, hempcrete continues to reabsorb carbon dioxide emissions from the air, which then makes it harder and stronger into the future. Its compressive strength ranges from 116 to 145 per square inch in counting, which is one of the many reasons we want to build with it in California. So that makes it very earthquake proof, and it really drives home the R value of our walls. So I'm going to discuss the supply chain, which we've discussed it a little bit with Rachel. Part of the supply chain is growing and processing, and at the forefront we have farmers. With this, as you all have heard, it comes richer soil, which means healthier food for us. It uses less water and creates a humidity, which helps create a microclimate. And from that, you get lower emissions, gut health, which goes hand in hand with mental health. It creates jobs, and it'll create housing. And then we have ranchers. It's used as feed for our livestock, which is healthier food for all of us, healthier compost for the earth, lower emissions, gut health equals mental health, jobs, and housing. Textiles, you could get clothes and furniture, which means a healthier built environment. It's again creates lower emissions, healthier people, less disease and allergens, and it creates jobs. Cleaner fuel and plastics, which again, lower emissions, affordable transportation costs, which honestly don't get me started on national dependency on other countries for oil. But that would end, and it would be a step in the right direction on the national independence again. And of course, it would create jobs. So, I mean, have you thanked a farmer recently? If not, you should. They're making the world turn, and they are regulated out the wazoo and abused, and yet they still make good on their role and feed all of us. So the next step would be healthy homes and community structures. When built right, it mitigates disaster. As you've seen, it's fireproof, earthquake-proof, mold-proof, pest-proof, allergen-free, flood-resistant. It lasts a long time with minimal to no wear and tear. It's geothermal, so it's significantly cooler in the summer and warmer in the winter, bringing energy costs way down. It contributes to the microclimate of each community and allows funding to go to important community climate agendas like more trees and vegetation to bring the earth down to a more ambient temperature, as well as replenish our ecosystem. So I just kind of want to drive home real quick with everything that I've said. You know, poverty is not just an issue of money. Lack of money may be it's one of many byproducts of stress. Stress with minimal options breeds hopelessness. Stress messes up our gut health, our mental health, our immune system. Stress breaks families and support nets. It impacts our children and their ability to learn and cope. It deflates our executive functions and ability to problem solve. When this is inadvertently instilled in children, they more often than not grow up struggling, sick, and dependent. A healthy environment reduces stress. Having a job reduces stress. Getting an education and being able to problem solve reduces stress. Healthy food and water and having a regulated ambient body temperature reduces stress. So we need to stop treating symptoms and go to the root. We need to stop throwing aspirin at cancer and address this all, and people will surprise you. All of these steps means affordable housing is beyond attainable. The basic needs and foundation to the road of the wellspring of life is just sitting right in front of us. So here's the self-actualization pyramid again. So from building this way, we open the doors to more programs to focus on psychological needs and fulfillment. It means workforce development and education become pillars of an active society. It opens the door to funds for infrastructure advancements, clinics, and better quality healthcare, public health and mental health programs. And every step reduces the carbon footprint, creates jobs, gives us healthier, cleaner air, food, water, energy, and fuel at a fraction of the cost now. As well as the community the community gets to stimulate their own economy. Every job, program, and build gives right back to the cause and the stakeholders, and we end up giving more than we take. So I guess who is with me? The next step involves figuring out which members of the community want to be a part of starting this. And there's been, everything that Rachel and Wayne said, these are all of this stuff is just taking steps to get this moving forward. Legislation, being proactive, working, in the community with other with other organizations. It's the big picture, and it can't be done with one person or even a couple people. It has to be done collectively. And I think that we all have it in us to collectively abolish poverty and create something for all of the future stakeholders for years down the road. So if you have any questions or you want to, kind of join the cause or, collaborate, my email is right there. And I guess we'll get to questions. I don't see my chat. Guess I'll stop share. Actually, I guess. What was that?
If anyone has questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Nothing came up during your pitch, but
it's fine.
I'm sure there may be some out there. A lot of praise though at that.
Yeah, so this is why when everybody asks why build, this is why. This is why we build. This is why we grow hemp. This is why we grow our building materials, because we are giving back on every level. And I think it's just absurd to not look at it that way.
All right, we've got some questions. Amanda, do you want to talk a little bit about like I know we'll get into this in the
Yeah,
next
I could
class,
talk a little
but
bit about it.
about the process of just general construction with hempcrete.
So it depends on what you're doing. There are different applications that you could use. I know that I know Alex Sexsmith will be getting into this, and I know that Matt Marino will be also getting into this. Oh, let me see. Okay, so I'm just seeing all the other questions. So construction assembly, it just depends on the design. And I know that you could go to the ICC online and you could see what is recommended for code efficiency. There is several different ways to go about it. Like, they have regular stick framing, and then you could have, the double, the dual or parallel framing. Everyone has a different name for it. And right now, a lot of the tamping in place is it's a big thing, but it's also, kind of time consuming. So we have Matt Marino invented the tilt up panels. He's on this call. And there's other people in the industry like Cameron McIntosh who does spray in, and there's just so many options, and every build and every climate is open to having options that work for best case scenario for that. So I think, kind of finding a professional, especially, maybe an engineer that has worked with green building or hemp in the past would be good. I mean, it's not completely necessary, but yeah, it would be good to find a builder or a engineer or even an architect that has built with hemp, and that will work best, because I have so many different construction assembly possibilities that we will be here for 2 days. So, um, rubble stone construction, I don't think so. I don't know. I think that might be a question for the next series, because we're going to be talking a lot more about construction in the April one. So I guess hope you come back to that one, Thomas. What are some of the biggest obstacles faced in CBC when building with hemp products? Oh man. Um, Anything that they could think of. If you've worked with anybody in the building department, regular building with regular building materials is a complete pain in the butt. It's almost like, have we done this before? Because it kind of feels like everyone's just kind of, doing that. And even with building code and local code and all of that, you will still have differences of opinion on um, how to execute the code. And so you often get sometimes multiple inspectors, and um, they each interpret the code differently. And so it kind of creates, a lot of stress. And so the first step typically is you just start getting through the planning phases that you would normally do with any other regular build, and then look into the alternative building materials. Even though it's in the code, it's not adopted to each state or local municipality yet. And that's what we're really trying to work on right now, is um, get this adopted on a local level, because you get enough local projects adopted, then eventually the state goes. And obviously we also still have to be putting pressure on the state and saying, hey, we need this, we need this, we need this, this has to happen. And part of that is also like what we're doing here, educating the public on it, so that it becomes something that's more spoken about and more prevalent. So there are lots of obstacles, but they're almost always in the planning, like every other building. Wait, hold on. Why is a chicken coop gray? The chicken coop is gray because I am a stickler for the type of binder I use. Everybody who's worked with me knows that I am a bigger fan of natural hydraulic lime. And when the curing process for the hydraulic lime takes place, it creates a natural byproduct that's somewhat like Portland cement, and it has less than 2% of that natural cement-like binder product in it. It works really well in California because it makes it much harder and more stable as it cures. And so it's it's not cement, but it is natural, and most of it is a little bit more expensive than you would get here in the States. So you have to there's a place up in Oakland that they ship it in from France. And I mean, the Europeans use that the majority of the time. And so I'm thinking, if they've been doing it for, hundreds of years, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Let's do it that way. And that's kind of my thing. Like, I've worked with several different binders and limes, and that is my favorite one to use because it's forgiving and it's way more stable and I'm trying to remember the word. Not I can Yep, I'm having word finding keep up issues right now, but it's you could basically um yep, I lost it. It's just easier to work with. You could predict. That's it. It's more predictable. Have any hemp homes been built in Tri-County? Nope. So there is a house in Ojai, and talking about building with hemp. I've met with them several times. We talked about me working on that building. I'm not entirely sure what is going on there, but there were lots of meetings and no real forward motion. And so I'm just, doing my own thing, doing this education stuff. But when I sat down and had a meeting with them, I asked them what the alternative building materials process was like for Ventura County. And they said, what are you talking about? We didn't need to do that, because they found a loophole and were able to utilize hemp as by calling it an aggregate and using it as insulation. And so therefore it may be the first house in Ventura County, I don't know, that is permitted that has hemp in it, but it is not the first permitted hemp house. So, because if they didn't go through the paperwork, then it's not on the paperwork that it's a hemp house. I was at the building department with Wayne a couple months ago, and we asked them, about other houses built with hemp, and they said, no, there's no other houses that are currently or even in the process of trying to be built with hemp to be considered a hemp home. So we're hoping with a couple I'm not at liberty to discuss it, but we have some projects coming up, and it's gonna be a pretty big one in Ventura County that is using hemp. They were very open to it so far, so we've started that process. There are no other hemp homes I know about. I know there's a straw bale house off the 33 between Ojai and Ventura, and that was the first alternative building material home. There was another house that I feel like they said that there was something. No, it wasn't hemp. I don't know, but they were talking about that there was like a retrofit house, and I think that was actually rammed earth. So at this point, there's nothing else. I don't know if I don't know if I can foresee a hemp home going up in Santa Barbara anytime soon, because they have the most ridiculousness going on with their their building department. So that would kind of be like a lookout for Ventura County, because it seems like we're leading the way. I do know that SLO has because not straw bale, the cob has been accepted into the ICC, and there's a bunch of cob houses in SLO County. And so I mean the alternative building materials are coming right along, and it's just, you know, a matter of time, you know, with the hemp buildings.
Awesome. We have one last question about well, comment having a demo building in the county would be huge for the cause. Can you talk about cost a little bit of when building with hemp?
A demo ADU in the county. We've been discussing that, and I would like to be able to do something like that and use workforce development as a way to bring about education, and I just think that that would be really important. So I mean, if we use workforce development, the cost would come down significantly. But not including the land. I mean, if it was like 700 square feet, I would say that it would probably be around $160,000 to $200,000. We could probably do less if it's just, so the cost of materials is coming down with hemp, and the cost of regular building materials are still pretty high. And so it's like we're kind of at an impasse here where everything is pretty much relatively comparable. So I mean, it depends on, it really just depends on all of the organizations that work together with us. But I could probably build one, like me and a crew, you know, a crew of my guys, we could probably build one for under $200,000 easily, you know, not counting the land. Might even be able to do it like in with $150,000. But yeah, it would be huge for the cause.
Awesome.
Also, I'd like to point out that the Hopland plans that Wayne has for hemp craft homes, at this time I am the exclusive builder for. So we're hoping to have enough um workforce development and training to where we could actually pass the torch to other construction entities and create certificates, so there's enough training involved to, you know, have more construction companies doing what I do, because there's just not enough of it. Any other questions?
Yeah, last call for questions, and we'll send you all on your way.
Oh, I see. Rohan said, what issues or difficulties did you encounter when gathering a community together to work on a project? I didn't really have many issues. So when I worked on the Colexco project, Randall and a few of my guys, with construction, you always have issues, always. Like it's like, it's not construction if it's running smoothly. That's just the way it is. And so a lot of things took a lot of time. The materials took a lot of time, and I only had them out there because, like, after a while, it's like, okay, they need to go home to their families, and because everybody was out of town because it's all the way down south. It's right there on the border of Mexico. And so it was, you know, very time consuming to be sleeping in hotels and that sort of stuff so that we could make this happen. And so when he had to pack up and go, I had to make a split decision, and I ended up going to a news channel out there called Canal 66. They have a, like, I want to say it was like 6 or 7 million viewership between the time of 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. And they had that viewership on both Mexico and California border, on both sides of the border. And they were very open to it. And they gave us a spot. I found somebody that would speak Spanish for me because muy poquito, like, it's not a, not good at it at all. And they did a call to action, and we ended up getting over 600 phone calls. I think that was the problem, was how many people wanted jobs, how many people wanted to learn about this. And I ended up getting 30 guys on the job like 2 hours later. And like I said, some were developmentally disabled, some guys were homeless, a lot of migrant workers, and some of them were coming from Mexico, and they were waiting at the border in lines by 5 a.m. Several hours to come and work with me. And I had women coming to me crying about how what I was paying them in one day. Oh, it gets me emotional. What I was paying them in one day was a week and a half's worth of work that they would have to work to get that. And it was such a success that the news station wanted to come back around and do a special on us every step of the build. And Mexicali was super excited about the possibility of bringing alternative building materials over there. Everyone was excited about how cool, as in temperature wise, it was in the home. And it had a really big impact. And so I think moving forward, especially in California, something like that is huge. And so I can't really think of any difficulties. I think it's just getting the news out there fast enough and finding all the avenues to make sure that there's some sort of viewership or some way to reach those people. And I think that's the only thing that's hard, because if you build it, they will come. And I've been extremely lucky with that aspect of it.
That's awesome. We've got just a comment from Thomas, and a shout out for DMHAA architecture, that they're eagerly looking for opportunities to build with hempcrete. So I guess a call for you, Amanda, to connect with them, or really anyone else who is interested in breaking ground on a project this way.
All right, sounds good. I'm totally down. We're totally looking for architects. There's talks about future large developments, and Wayne and I have discussed possibility to doing like a call to action for architects, um, and I think I talked to Rohan about it, and Alex as well, about just opening up the door to anyone that wants to showcase their work or get a foot in there and test it out. Then yeah, bring it on, because we need to. That's the whole point of working with community, is not just working with the same people over and over again. It's giving them that chance to have that experience. So I'm totally open to it. You could email me at amandamartin@renewalrevolution.com, and we can connect.
Awesome. All right. Well, we're approaching time. I am gonna close things out here, and again, you'll be hearing from me in the next few days with just follow-up resources. I'll provide both Amanda and Rachel's slides and contact information for any follow-up. That said, we are here for our second part of the series on the 23rd of next month, same time period, where we'll focus more so on the actual construction practices with hempcrete. So look forward to seeing you there, and enjoy the rest of your night.
Bye, guys.